morning, the Mayor, the members of the Joburg Mayoral Committee, the officials, the guests, the residents of the city of Joburg, all the important stakeholders. Thanks again for us having the opportunity one more time to meet and to talk about the future of our city. I'm Tim Modise, and we are going to have a chat with the Executive Mayor of the city of Joburg, Councillor Mpho Phalatse, who recently announced the members of her mayoral committee. And we're going to spend some time this morning discussing the priorities and the plans for the year and the capacity that the city has to deliver on all the promises that have been made. And it's called the Golden Start, today's event. And I suppose over a period of time, over the next few days, we'll be monitoring whether the start is indeed golden and whether the opportunities exist, the golden opportunities exist to make sure that the city of Joburg comes alive again. Now, the Executive Mayor of the city of Joburg, Mayor Mpho Phalatse, over to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. There you have it. Our team of 10 dynamic MMCs who are geared up and ready to bring back the shine to our city of gold that has lost its shine. Next to me is Councillor Leonot, who's also the leader of executive business, and I will be presenting her to council tomorrow as such. We are very fortunate. We're in a very privileged position where we've been given the task of turning our beloved city around and giving to residents what they truly, truly deserve. We all know that Johannesburg is known as the city of gold, that people started settling in our city after the gold rush. When gold was discovered, it attracted many people, from prospectors to investors to miners, even prostitutes and gangsters, and that's how Johannesburg became the city that it is today, a diverse city which has become a city and a beacon of hope for many from across the world coming here looking for hope. Unfortunately, many of them get disappointed and their hopes are not realized, and we are here to make sure that that changes. You've seen the 10 MMCs. I've spent time with them in the past few weeks, since the 13th of December when they were appointed. They've been busy, they haven't had a Christmas, they haven't had a New Year's, they've been hard at work looking at how we're going to turn this ship around.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Well, we're very pleased now we can put names to faces and the portfolios to the respective individuals. Fair enough. You announced your team in early December, but what have you been up to since that time? I mean, over the preceding few weeks, what are your plans? What are you putting together?
Well, we started by onboarding the MMCs after they were appointed on the 13th of December. We had a 4 days induction program, and I'd like to really thank the city manager, the group governance head, as well as the head of group strategy, planning, research, and coordination, who've really assisted us with this transition. In the 4 days of the induction, we had presentations by different departments and entities to take us through some of the successes, but also some of the challenges and things that need to be changed. And after the 4-year induction program, the MMCs had time to think about what their turnaround strategies will be. And we spent a further 3 days in strategic planning, looking at their proposed plans. And now I will present to you the 7 priorities that we have agreed on as the new Johannesburg multi-party government. So we've identified 7 things that we'd like to focus on as our gift to our residents as we serve them in the next 5 years. The first one is to give them a city that gets the basics right. We know that there are huge challenges with electricity supply, water supply. People are not driving on roads that aren't riddled with potholes, roads that are surfaced. There's challenges with traffic lights, and that affects the flow of traffic as well as the economy. And we're going to make sure that people get basic services. Secondly, we want to give people a caring city. We recognize that Johannesburg is diverse in many ways, but it's also got people of different socioeconomic status, and people need to be assisted. We will be scaling up the rollout of the expanded social package to make sure that the poor in our midst are able to get help through various subsidies. We will make sure that all vulnerable and marginalized residents are assisted, whether it's women, youth, persons with disabilities, children, the LGBTIQA+ community, and many others through various support programs, including in our clinics, homeless shelters, substance abuse treatment centers, and so on. We also want to give our residents a safe and secure city. One of the things that is Googled the most is Johannesburg safe? It shows that a lot of people are really concerned about safety and security in Johannesburg, and we want to change that picture. We've got MMC Tembe, who used to be our chief of police, and he's got great plans to share with our residents on how exactly we're going to turn this situation around. We want to make sure we work in a more integrated manner with the SAPs, with community policing as well as private policing agencies to improve safety and security in Johannesburg. We also want Joburg to be a business-friendly city. We want it to be easy for businesses to connect with the city, but also to function in the city. But we also want Joburg to be an inclusive city where everyone feels right at home through different modalities of providing housing solutions, but we also want to have shared spaces where we can live, work, and play with each other as the different members of this beautiful city of ours. But we want the city to work for our residents through e-governance solutions, making sure that it's easy to interface with the city, whether you're checking your bills, whether you're making payment, or whether you're logging a query or tracking it. And we also want to make sure there's quick turnaround times. And lastly, the smart city priority, which is our priority number 7, is to make sure that we are current and that Johannesburg is the true economic hub and that we embrace smart solutions in everything that we do.
Well, I'm sure many residents would say we appreciate that, Mayor, and we are impressed that you have identified their priorities, but would say let's go back and stay with the basics, what you said about the basics, right? So where are we in terms of the power grid, the water networks, the roads infrastructure, and related infrastructure?
Well, we know that we've inherited a huge backlog in terms of our infrastructure, whether it's water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, or roads infrastructure. One of the things that we'll be doing is making sure that we increase investment in repairs and maintenance of our existing infrastructure, but also invest in future growth. We spoke about Joburg being the economic hub and attracting many people. This is our reality, and it's a reality we need to embrace, and the sooner we do so, the better, because then we can plan better. Some of the things that we'll be doing is, yes, increasing our capital investment in infrastructure repairs, maintenance, and investing in future growth. We want people working from home to be assured of power supply that's uninterrupted. We want people to be able to open their taps and get running water, particularly now with COVID-19, where keeping our hands clean and keeping clean is such an important intervention in the control of the pandemic. But we also want people's drive to work to be smooth and roads to be surfaced, traffic lights to be working, to make sure that we create an enabling environment for the economy to grow, jobs to be created, and for Joburg to become the city of golden opportunities.
Are you able to give an indication, maybe financial-wise, how some of the things that you're mentioning will be funded? Have you identified the finance?
So in terms of our finance, there are two things. Firstly, we need to make sure that those who can afford to pay are paying for services, and we need to make sure that we are collecting the money that needs to come into the city, because it's that money that's going to go back into giving services. But also, we need to close the leaks in the system. What we've picked up is that there's a lot of corruption in the system that's stealing money away from the ratepayer, and that's making it difficult for us to render services. So we will be working very closely with the Group Forensic and Investigation Services Unit to make sure that all the leaks are closed, and to make sure that whatever that we can recover is recovered and every cent works for our residents.
Right, and the quality of service, is it going to be any different? I mean, in terms of how residents interact with the bureaucracy, so to speak, of the city?
Yes, definitely. We will be investing in our e-governance platform, but we need to make sure there's connectivity citywide so that all in Johannesburg can enjoy the use of our e-governance platform. With COVID-19, we don't want people standing in long queues. We don't want people traveling unnecessarily from home when they can do most of their dealings with the city from home. So we will be investing a lot in those kinds of smart solutions.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I wanted to continue and talk about power outages, water outages, but I'm sure some of the MMCs will address those points. And Councillor Sun is responsible for the environment, infrastructure and services, as we've just been informed earlier on. So, Councillor Sun, tell us more.
Greetings, Executive Mayor Palazzi and the residents of City of Johannesburg. I'm here at Honeydew. I'm here to show you the amount of devastation and damage it causes the city when it comes to cable theft and infrastructure damages. I'm here with my colleague Tsifararo from the City Power. She's the CEO. This is one of the mini subs that's in the area has been damaged due to illegal connections. Just recently, we had to replace this mini sub 3 times, which costs the city 1.5 million rand. Our immediate plan within 6 months is to reduce cable theft by 20%. And our way to do it is that we have identified hotspots. We will be setting up CCTV cameras that will be guarded 24 hours, 7 days a week. Together, we are hoping with the assistance of our community members, we are ready to bring you less power outages so we can bring more power to you.
Thank you very much.
Greetings, Executive Mayor Palazzi and the residents.
That is just in case you forget who I am, so they have to play it twice. Good morning, Executive Mayor Palazzi, my fellow MMCs, and of course, Ndate Temodise. Certainly a wonderful privilege to see you and the guests present today, and I think mostly to our residents of the city of Johannesburg. Yes, indeed, when we took office, Executive Mayor, we saw a lot of problems that goes beyond our imagination. But our role is not to look at the problem and frown on it. Our stance and our position is to find the problem and find the solution and action on the solution. So just to give you a picture of what I have to go through on a daily basis. Power outages, water outages, things are not being picked up as refuse. Is a joke that I started it, that people are beginning to call us, instead of City Power, they call us City No Power. Joburg Water, Joburg No Water. Pick it up, pick nothing up. We need to change that because our residents of the city of Johannesburg deserve the real, genuine, world-class service. So just in terms of cable theft, the city suffers 3.6 billion rand per annum in terms of non-technical losses. That is due to cable theft, illegal connections. Imagine that if we took that 3.6 billion rand and we used it and we plowed it back into our infrastructure development investment, how much more electricity and power and services we can bring to the resident of Joburg. So as an extension of what you saw in the video, that we already identified hotspots where we'll be setting up CCTV cameras, hoping with the support with my colleague, MMC David Tembe of Public Safety, that we're going to monitor those hotspots, ensure that we catch those cable thieves, ensure that they face the might of the law, ensure that our damages are being vastly reduced, so we are able to bring you more power. In terms of Mayor, your mayoral priority, Madam Mayor, Joburg must be a functioning city. And I think more importantly, being the hub of, economic hub of Africa, we can't expect our businesses to run without power. We cannot expect our businesses to run without water and other services. So we will identify those short-term solutions to ensure that the Joburg businesses and very importantly our residents continue to enjoy uninterrupted services. And I think maybe just a last issue from my side that we really want to bring the best minds in terms of the industry, the academics, the role players, you know, the professional people within the industry to join us at this energy indaba that we're going to host. So they will tell us what would be the best solution, not just for the city, but for the city's industry, economy, across all sectors, is to remove us away from this dependency on Eskom, load shedding. I'm sure no residents want to ever go through that. So that's our initiative, Madam Mayor. And personally for me, just on a very short note, you'll see me a lot of the times out there doing oversight inspections, so I'll be trading my suit and tie for a reflector and my hard hat. I'm going to go out, ensure that our residents are represented. We'll enhance the customer interface with our entities, that is City Power and Joburg Water. And we certainly want to bring back the shine to Joburg, ensure that this is not just a functioning city, but a golden, shining functioning city. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor San, obviously you'll also be working closely with communities. I'd like to presume the schools and so on, getting them involved in some of your projects. Now, to tell us more about that, Councillor Harris, can you tell us more about your portfolio community development? But first, let's take a look.
The Golden Start program is aimed at service delivery, and to this end, the City of Johannesburg is looking at senior management going out into the communities, looking at all the different facilities, our sports stadiums, our libraries, our community halls, just ensuring that the quality of service provided to communities is up to standard. We're going to introduce what we call the 7 to 11 Boots on the Ground program, where we're going to be looking at just ensuring that the service that we're giving to communities is up to standard. We are determined to restore the glitter of Johannesburg, and that is what this Golden Start program is all about.
Thank you, and good morning to you all. Indeed, it's a privilege to be able to sit amongst this select group of leaders that the citizens of Johannesburg have elected to lead. And I think what I've learned in this short period of time, that all of us are committed to servant leadership. Now, the Community Development Department is responsible really for the spiritual, physical and mental condition of the city of Johannesburg. We provide the playing spaces, we provide the reading spaces, we provide parks where people can go out and exercise and walk. But there are challenges in this department in that homelessness has resulted in people living in our parking spaces, in our parks. they've invaded our recreation centers. And over time, we are challenged with the potential of unrest as we have never seen, because people are just so deprived of services. But the good news is that the Golden Start program is going to change all of that. We're going to do this by, in our department, in community development, introducing what we call the 7 to 11 boots on the ground program. That means that senior officials in our department will go out to the parks, they will go out to the libraries, they will go out to the swimming pools from 7 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning, no meetings. They will go there and have a look and see exactly what is the state of those facilities, and they will assess the quality of service that is being given to our residents. Now, you can't sit in an office and provide services and you'll budget for it, so we have a romantic notion of what needs to happen, but on the ground there's something else happening. So to do that, we're going to just free up all of our management to think creatively, to think laterally, to think service delivery for our people, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure a society that is inclusive. We want to ensure social cohesion. We want to ensure safety. And talking about safety, we are looking at rolling out in our green spaces what we call park rangers, to ensure that when people go out walking their dog or when they go out running, they're not going to be accosted by people that will jump on top of them and rob them, whatever they have. So we need to ensure that the city of Johannesburg is going to be safe. When we're looking at our drug problem that we have, we're going to ensure that we leverage the facilities of the city of Johannesburg so that programs can be rolled out so that the youth that are at risk will be able to be catered to, so that they can have a healthier mind and a healthier outlook to what the city of Johannesburg is about. Our ComDev is a vast department, but it has a tremendous potential to unlock the economic resources of the city. Because we can look at, whilst we are looking at many people coming in here as in migration, we also need to be looking at attracting economic investment in the city. And to be able to do that, we need to be able to provide the sets for filmmakers to come and exercise their craft. We need to provide the theaters for our arts people to exercise and to show the city what they have. We need to ensure that our libraries are Wi-Fi compliant so that our children don't need to run helter-skelter looking for places to do CVs and to do homework and such stuff. So I am excited about the future. I am excited about my team of fellow MMCs. I am excited about the leadership of this team to make the city of Johannesburg the golden jewel that it was.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Now, let's take a look at the Golden Start in the context of health. And this segment, we're going to hear from Councillor Dilange.
Hi, I'm Franco Dilange, the MMC for Health and Social Development. Drug and substance abuse is a scourge that is devastating many families and communities within our city. Today, I'm standing outside the Davidsonville Care Center for Substance Abuse. This facility forms part of the community-based substance abuse program. I'm pleased to announce that this facility will be opened before the end of June 2022. This will go a long way in supporting the families who are overwhelmed by drug and alcohol abuse. But this work is not where my portfolio ends. We all felt the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Soon there will be 39 clinics within our city that will provide COVID-19 vaccines. We're also working hard to eliminate the queues and the delays at our healthcare facilities. Also, in terms of increasing capacity and implementing general improvements of care, the space of 11 of our clinics will be expanded soon. This and other initiatives are our commitment and forms part of delivering the experience of a caring city for the residents of Johannesburg.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Executive Mayor. Thank you to our guests and our residents that is watching us live. Tim, this really falls under the caring leg of the city and what we're trying to achieve with our Golden Start. Health and social development, it's really services that we give to the communities for free. As mentioned, the substance abuse, I was standing there at the 7th substance abuse facility in the city of Johannesburg that will be opening soon. It's actually the mandate of province to facilitate health and social development, but the city is helping province along with the current facilities that we do have. With the rehabilitation facility, our substance abuse facilities, it's an unfunded mandate. So the city had to find the money within the budget to actually facilitate these types of facilities. Currently, all our clinics and our mobile clinics are doing testing for COVID-19 infections. But we are really striving very soon to hit 50%, which is 39 of our clinics, to actually also do the vaccines for our residents in our specific areas. Then also on the social side, we have the extended social package, caring and the poor and the really devastated people, pensioners, people that are unemployed. They can register on the ESP, and we can make sure that some level of services for water, electricity, and so forth, they can also enjoy those services within the city of Johannesburg. Then that also falls under my portfolio is food security. Now, currently, I recently heard that we're hitting 50% within the city of Johannesburg of people that does not have enough food to feed their families. So we're really looking at our different projects, especially in the south of Johannesburg, where we've got tracts of open land that we can facilitate small to medium-sized up-and-coming farmers. And then a project that is close to my heart is rooftop and backyard farming, that we can link up with the Johannesburg Fresh Produce Market, and that they can facilitate smaller markets or satellite markets within the area. So when the consumer doesn't consume all the food that they grow locally within their premises, they can actually sell some of those. So that is basically what my portfolio is all about. And it's a caring portfolio. We're trying our best to provide services. And even at 11 of our clinics, we're trying to expand the space. So there's more nurses and more services that we can provide at those specific facilities. And that will also curb queues and waiting times at our healthcare facilities. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor De Lange. And of course, safety as well is an important issue at the clinics and everywhere else in the city. So we'll hear from the MMC for Public Safety, Councillor Tembe, in a moment, but let's take a look at this video.
Today we're witnessing Buya Mthetho in action. Buya Mthetho is back in the city to ensure that we claim our city from the criminals. We are going to ensure that the people of Johannesburg are safe. We are going to do block by block operations and ensure that zonal policing takes place. As you have seen now, we've just arrested a pickpocketer and will ensure that the hijacked buildings are taken care of. We'll reclaim this one by one, and we are going to stay there to ensure that each and every citizen is safe in our city.
Beautiful.
Yes, thank you very much. as we all know that if the city is not safe, then the people are not safe. What we have done is we are going to bring Buyamteto. Buyamteto is a multidisciplinary unit that is going to deal with the issues of illegal electricity connection, illegal dumping, hijacked buildings, human trafficking, and as Mr. San has just said, the issue of cable theft. Now, we are going to intensify first in the inner city. We had little or no more than 200 officers in the city of Johannesburg. I want to make this statement very clear after I've spoken to our executive mayor. We are going to have 780 officers in the inner city as part of Buyamteto. At any given time, we are going to have 500 officers in the inner city that will take care of the people of Johannesburg. Now, the problem that we have is the economy is suffering in the inner city because people are afraid to come and trade, work, and go to school and do their business in a free society. It is our responsibility as the city of Johannesburg to ensure that our people are safe. The resources that the city has given me, it's enough to ensure that we'll do the best we can. The illegal dumping. People get injured because some of the issues that is being dumped there, the filters, for an example, children are playing there. We are not going to tolerate it. We are going to deal with smaller things first, like urinating in the street, for an example. You can't do that. You can't litter in the street. You can't do that. Each and every block, we will be there to deal with these issues. We are going to have plus minus 1,800 officers. Day shift, 780. Night shift, 500. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's the councillor responsible for public safety, David Tembe. But of course, there's talk of the city being business friendly, but what does it mean? We will find out in a moment from the MMC responsible for economic development, Councillor Mbundu, but let's start first with this video.
Hello, people of Johannesburg. Today I'm in this vibrant township called Alexander. We are visiting the Tsakis Group, which is an organically grown business that started off as a bottle store, a fruit and veg, a chisanyama, motor spares, and now looking to get into betting. We realize that this is a lifeline of our economy. The SME sector is the engine of our economy. This is where jobs are created. This is the only route that we're going to find to eliminate the big problem of youth unemployment that is currently sitting at 3 out of 4 young people not employed. How do we intend doing that? Is to look at businesses like these that are stable over time, that have demonstrated governance, that have demonstrated the ability to operate, and help them up the value chain. Rather than being in the front end and to grow horizontally, we want to be able to help them start at source and be able to have a product that they can own, manufacture, put it through the distribution network, and ultimately distribute across. And not only to the townships, by the way. You know, we're going to be able to build a business like this that is able to utilize its current platform to be able to grow into becoming an enterprise business. This, in our view, is what we see what good looks like. How we intend doing this, we're going to get into a number of consultations with the businesses locally. I'm committing to setting up an MMC roundtable where on a monthly basis we meet with the businesses, various groups, understanding what their requirements are, and ensuring that we formulate plans to help them scale their businesses in this particular strategy. Looking forward to this project.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Tim. Look, let's face the facts. We've inherited a city that is in ICU. In the 20 years leading to 2017, South Africa grew at a rate of 2.7%. The province of Gauteng at 3% and Joburg at 3.6%. Joburg is the biggest contributor to the GDP of the country. So we are cognizant of the impact that the role that we play in the overall economy of the country. However, today, 3 out of 4 young people, I mean, we live in our median age is around about 27 years old, and 3 out of 4 young people are out of jobs. So our priority is to make sure that we create employment. Government is not going to create employment, but it's a private sector that creates employment, particularly the SMME sector. So we need to stimulate the SMME sector, make it easy for them to access public services, financing, business advisory, incubation services. I think one of the challenges that face small businesses is lack of administration skills and lack of access to cash flow. So we want to make sure that we transform our opportunity centers to ensure that they look at the holistic view of helping those small businesses reach a level where they can sustain themselves. And then not only that, but also to look at how to grow vertically upwards. There's a various number of government agencies that provide funding, and money gets returned back to Treasury. We need to unlock that and make sure that it becomes accessible. How we're doing that is we have to be accountable. I'm setting up an MMC roundtable that meets on once a month with businesses where we can agree on what their requirements are and how we can facilitate them, and then go back and be accountable to them at the end of, on the next month to ensure that we keep it live and going. Also to make sure that we facilitate big business and small business engagements. Big business needs to come back into the inner city, for example. We've had a massive capital flight. Anglo has just left. So, working together with Councillor Tembe and my colleagues, we want to make sure that we clean up the city, we enforce bylaws, we ensure that the informal trade policy is in place, we ensure that the permit system is in place so that our people are able to trade. So for us is to ensure that we facilitate a business-friendly environment and also to give credibility, to bring back the credibility to big business, to come back and invest in our city.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mbundu, talking about the economic plans for the city. But what about development planning? Because there's also talk of the integrated, inclusive city, and how is that going to assist with the economic development approach of the city? So we'll hear from Councillor Echo Zonjoku in a moment, who's responsible for development planning.
Some time ago, the City of Johannesburg was the winner of a productivity award from the National Productivity Institute. The award was given in recognition of a process that the city had put in place to approve building plans within 24 hours. Unfortunately, the current process takes up to 30 days, which is the statutory time frame. Well, now all of that will be history by the end of June. With our new online system, approvals will be completed within 5 working days for commercial building plans and 10 days for residential building plans, provided it had complied with all regulations. The applicant will get an SMS notification for each stage and will be provided with a link to track the application. This will reduce and prevent red tape and delays in Johannesburg's development sector. It is this certainty of our town planning and other processes that will bring the necessary development that will enhance the quality of our residents' lives and make it easier to bring business and jobs to Johannesburg.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Executive Mayor. Thank you very much for this opportunity given to us by the residents of the City of Johannesburg. I don't know how many of us have tried to submit a plan to the city. How many of us do alterations to our houses? How many of us do extensions? And we've realized from our engagements over the past 2 years that the Department of Development Planning and the city as a whole have realized that it's taking so long, and it results in people they just start building, and we end up with illegal building across the city, which cause other problems, which my colleague MMC Tembe has alluded to, that leads to enforcement issues. Now, in this engagement with our developers, with homeowners, we've actually realized that we need to make the process easier. Developers have told us that they would rather do business in Cape Town, they'd rather move their business to Durban, and we want the business to stay in Johannesburg. Johannesburg is the hub of Africa. This is where things are supposed to be happening. Now, if we make it difficult for businesses to get plans, to have their shops built, for example, if you've got a piece of land and you need to build that a shopping center, or you need to build residential units, you're going to need a plan approved by the city. Now, people have told us, you are taking too long, we're taking our business elsewhere, and we want to keep it here. So what MMC Mbundu is talking about, for example, you have your Chisanyama who has to have those shops, who employ people. Development planning is where it starts. So you got to get that plan approved first of all, before you start building on creating those jobs. So what the city has done is it's engaged with our architects, our industry stakeholders over the past almost 2 years. And there's been delays with the system because we had some glitches in the system. And as we are finding glitches, we had been engaging with the industry, we've been engaging with residents, and we found out what are the problems. And as the problems happen, we start fixing the problems with the system. Now, what I'm excited about this system that we have, the construction permit management system, is that whether you're a resident or an architect, now you'll be forced to use an architect, first of all, and that will also help with the integrity of your plans, because you'll know it's somebody who is registered with SACAP. So the person, because you cannot build without a plan, and the plan has to be drawn up by an architect. So it will help for the integrity of your structure, of your building. So all of that will be applied for online. We'll also, when the architect or the owner apply online, they will have to insert the number, the registration number of that architect. So it will reduce a whole lot of red tape, because a lot of things will be done online. Once it's done online, your application, if the quality of the plan is not good enough, it will be rejected immediately. What's happened before is that applicants will apply, they'll wait maybe 30 or 60 days before they even know whether their plan was not good enough. Now what's going to happen is on submission, on the application, they will know immediately. Once that's done, you will get, as the applicant, you'll get a notification on SMS, and you'll get a link on that SMS, which will tell you exactly at what stage of the application, of the process, your application is. So you can also see with this new system, if you go onto the link, you'll be able to see who is sitting on your application. So there's no more, where you're not going to be able to know exactly where it is. And what I love about the system as well is that you will be able to, the system will allocate, it's like a round robin. So on the application, you'll get a notification. Also, the architect will get an application. The system will allocate to the next stage. The next stage that's supposed to happen, you will also see there's a next stage is now sitting in examining, and then it will round robin. It's a whole round robin system. So, and that will reduce the process from the statutory time frame for 500 square meters is now 500, it's now 30 days for 500 square meters or less. It will reduce that to 5 days by the end of June. We've tested it over the past 12 months, and we are certain that we can even get back.
Will talk us through the golden start regarding roads and transport.
Before the end of this year, we are looking at ensuring that key projects that are underway are implemented and operationalized for our citizens. This includes the long overdue completion of Rea Vaya Phase 1CA, operating from Johannesburg CBD to Alexander and Sandton. One other project is the Johannesburg International Transport Interchange, GT, which I'm reporting live from today. South Africans will know that one of the key challenges facing the inner city is the large number of commuter and long-distance minibus taxis and buses that park on the street due to lack of ranking and holding facilities. There are also health, safety and security challenges at Jagminsa Noord and MTN taxi rank. There is a serious overcrowding at the rank and surrounding streets. Working with our key stakeholders in the transport sector, we want to see these problems addressed using this new facility as a catalyst.
Thank you very much, team. And I want to start paying homage to my predecessor, Councillor Nonhlanhla Makhubu. That facility that you see there, it was launched a few months ago. And it's a very key facility which we must use it as a catalyst to solve a lot of transport issues in the inner city. So it's one of the projects that we'll be focusing on. There will be retail stores there. There will be home affairs will be there to make sure that immigration is dealt with for people that will be taking long-distance buses, cross-border buses, and so forth. So it's a key project that, that we need to make sure that it's successful. But there's a lot of other projects that are already in place that we need to complete them. And we'll be working very closely with our officials in the transport department at JRA and Metrobus. I'm looking forward to working with them because without them, we will not be able to achieve most of the things. Very important key theme is that we have had a number of rainfalls, quite a lot of rainfalls recently, and our roads are looking bad, are looking really bad. You know, there's a lot of potholes and there's a lot of grass on the road that we need to deal with. So JRA is ready. They've put together a recovery plan that will make sure that we go in and deal with the backlog. There's a lot of service requests that we have received that have not been dealt with for a very long time. And the team is now ready to hit the ground running. It's a new year, and they've went on holidays. They are now, you know, rejuvenized, and they want to come back and do their work. We'll work closely with them to make sure that we deal with the backlog in terms of potholes and other things. But I think the Executive Mayor spoke a lot about investment in infrastructure. Transport is key to the economic growth of this. We deliver the corruption that we have inherited, that we have seen in JRA. We need to make sure that we turn around that entity, starting from the board level up until to the lowest level, that we eradicate corruption in every level of JRA. We need to make sure that there's competent people doing the work as well. We've got an asphalt plant now in the city. It's a plant that actually allows us to get the material that we can use to patch potholes. That plant has been operating at 20% of its capacity. We need to make sure that we optimize it. It's a very, very important facility, a strategic facility for the city. We're going to work closely with the regional operators to make sure that that area is covered as well. So, other important matter is the issue of theft and vandalism of our infrastructure. My colleagues have already touched on that. We are experiencing that as well in the transport department, particularly with our traffic lights signal, or traffic signals. So we need to make sure that we work closely with JMPD, together with our colleagues from City Power, on clamping down on vandalism and stealing of our cables, traffic light cables. We've got a unit there at JRA, Executive Mayor, it's called Infrastructure Protection Unit. It's been inactive for a while. It was working closely with GFIS and JMPD, but I do understand that it's been inactive for a while. So we want to make sure that now we bring it back so that we can be able to focus on at least minimizing the vandalism that is happening on our infrastructure. We cannot every time be putting money into building infrastructure for the city, but then allow, you know, it to be vandalized, and we do nothing about it. Another key important issue, team, it's not our competency, it's Metro Rail and the rail networks in the city of Johannesburg that has collapsed. I think all of us are aware that Metro Rail is not operating. There's actually one train operating somewhere from Tembisa coming to Johannesburg, but that mode of transport has collapsed. As I said, it's not our competence, it's the competency of PRASA and National Transport Department, but we want to start a conversation with our colleagues from Tshwane, our conversation with our colleagues from Ekurhuleni. We want to put pressure on national government, hold them accountable on the collapse of this metro rail. For us, really, we also want to bring Cape Town on board because they've started a process where they've asked government to devolve this responsibility of metro rail to the city. We want to mobilize our 3 colleagues from the other 2 metros so that we can be able to have one weight and be able to hold government accountable on the collapse of metro rail. Because it's important. Most of our people from townships are using this mode of transport. And for a longest time, they've not been able to do so. And that has actually cost a lot of jobs and so forth. So that's one area that we also want to look at. And we think that working together closely with the transport sector as well. Because this sector, it has its instability with regards to, as you know, the fights that are happening in the taxi industry and so forth. We want to bring them on board so that they can be our partners and have meaningful discussions with us so that we can be able to see that there is stability there. A number of our facilities are currently completed. We have built them, but we can't operationalize them because of the infighting in the taxi industry. So we want to zoom into that as well and working closely with our colleagues from the province so that we can be able to minimize the challenges that are there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ngobeni. And the mayor, the executive mayor of Joburg, I'd like to bring you back to the conversation to tell us a little bit more about the inner city rejuvenation plans, because apparently you've got some unique ideas and plans for that.
Definitely, Tim, and thank you for that question. The inner city is the jewel of the city of Johannesburg. It is a shared space for all the 7 regions of the city. It's a place where we connect. It's probably one of our most diverse spaces in the city. But yes, the inner city is in trouble, and it has been for a while. There's been lots of efforts by various administrations to turn the inner city around, but we've not been successful. There hasn't been sustained traction in doing so. This administration has committed to being the administration that will get the Joburg inner city right. I'm sure you've already heard from MMC Tembe, from MMC Echuzonjoku, from a development planning point of view, from MMC Ngobeni, from a transport point of view, that many MMCs have a focus on the Johannesburg inner city. MMC Sun will be making sure that it's clean. We will be centralizing waste management. We've picked up, as we've been looking at the institution, that there is fragmentation in how we manage waste and illegal dumping. And so we will be centralizing it for operational efficiencies, and MMC Sun will be making sure that the inner city is looking clean. And MMC Tembe will make sure that those who work against us are held to account and that they face the full might of the law. That's on the one hand, but you'll recall that a few years ago, a few of us here were part of the government that started the Inner City Rejuvenation Program, where we identified hijacked buildings in the inner city that we were able to reclaim, repurpose in partnership with the private sector by handing them over for redevelopment. That program is coming back in this administration. We will make sure that all those buildings are indeed handed over to the private sector for redevelopment as part of our plan to turn the inner city around. Now, we've just also received a request with the passing of the Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu from the St. Mary's Cathedral, which is in the heart of the inner city, for us to please consider renaming that precinct the Desmond Tutu precinct. This is a request that this administration has received with warm hands. We've started engaging on it. In fact, in the mayoral committee yesterday, we looked at the initial report, and the various MMCs will be going back to their portfolios to look at what they can do within their respective portfolios. We're excited about the opportunity, and I'm quite certain that the Joburg inner city is going to look how it should as this inner city of the economic hub of this country.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, the Executive Mayor. Well, we talk about the inclusive city, but the spatial planning, the housing arrangements, and the expansion of the informal settlements on the periphery of the city of Joburg must be key challenges for you. And I wonder how the city is going to resolve those. But Councillor Mabaso is responsible for housing. He will tell us a bit more. about that. But before, let's take a look at this video.
My name is Mlungu Mabaso. I'm the MMC for housing in the city of Johannesburg. I am appointed for the second time by the executive mayor. It's a new administration, same old responsibilities, and we are excited about the new strategy that the mayor has presented to us. So with the Department of Housing, it's easy. We just align ourselves with the strategy, and for us is to continue with our project that we started in the previous financial year. One of those projects that we are still going to prioritize now within our 100 days is the conversion of the CRU units within the hostel, and we are planning to do allocation as soon as possible. And the second one is to continue with the informal settlement upgrade. There are 42 informal settlements that were identified for this current financial year, where we are packing stands, we are electrifying, we are building in access roads, and we are also providing people into those stands with stand water taps. But the last phase of that will be, of course, to do a township establishment so that we provide people with the ownership into those areas. The student accommodation, we are going to launch the student accommodation. I know there was a pilot project that we had rolled out, and we are going to launch in a new one in this current financial year. Going forward, we also going to expedite the process where we are doing infrastructure investment, and like at Flairhof, we are concluding the construction of a substation there for the purposes of increasing the capacity and to electrify those units that were not electrified, that were left vacant for too long. So that is what we are going to do in these 100 days. And even in other mega projects, there is work that is happening, like you're referring, there is allocation that is going to take place because of the infrastructure investment that we have prioritized in these 100 days. In these 100 days, of course, we are also going to launch in a Southern Farm as one of our mega projects, and there is another mega project where we are going to implement the service stands, a hot run mega project, and there are other service stands that we are going to launch in this period of 100 days. Thank you very much. You conclude then the video as always. Greetings to the Executive Mayor, the members of the Mayoral Committee, and the Speaker of Council, all colleagues. The reality is that the City of Johannesburg accounts for the majority of people who are within the housing need register in the province. But the unfortunate part is that the City of Johannesburg is one of those municipalities that does not receive support from the provincial government. But that did not stop the City of Johannesburg from trying to bring in alternative programs and see how they can address the issue of housing backlog within the city. So one of the programs that we decided then to introduce was the service stand program, but we had to start with the policy, and the Council of February last year was able to pass the policy on service stands. Hence now we are in the process to launch that program, and there are 3 sites that the department is currently working on, and very soon we are going to launch, and we are going to have a public briefing on how the program is going to be rolled out, because the policy is very clear. The intention is not to continue to create more informal settlement, but is for people to be able to build houses for themselves within those service stands. But we are going to make a public briefing so that at least everyone in the City of Johannesburg understands on how that policy or the program is going to be rolled out. So the second program that we have prioritized is that of the informal settlement upgrade, because the majority of our people that are in need of houses are people within our hostel and people that are in the informal settlement, not forgetting about those that are staying within our backyards in the township. But with the informal settlement upgrade, the intention there is to provide people with services where they are, because if you were to say everyone in Johannesburg must wait for government to allocate them into houses, that is going to take forever, and a lot of people are going to die before they get to be allocated into houses. So the process of providing people with services where they stay, give them stands where they are, construct access roads, provide all the services, including the electrification and provision of water and the flushing toilet within the informal settlement. And the good thing about the informal settlement upgrade is that the last phase of that is the township establishment, where you provide people with ownership, so that when you come and introduce the in-suit development of building RDP houses, at least people are owners of those stands. So that is the program that we are going to continue to roll out. And there are 42 informal settlements that we are currently working on in this financial year, and there are other ones that have been identified for the upcoming financial year. So the other program is that of the rollout of title deeds. It's a day-to-day program, because we've got a backlog. People were allocated in houses. There are people who were allocated in late 90s, and they have not been provided with the ownership of those houses. And people are still waiting for government to give them ownership of the houses that have been allocated to them. So this is a day-to-day program, and we are rolling out this program, and we are making sure that we cover all the regions in the city, so that at least all those people that have been allocated into these houses are provided with title deed. And that is going to continue to be our program, our priority program, to roll out the issuing of title deed. And the other program is the misuse houses project, where we are putting more investment in our mega project, like the one at Flehof. There are units that were left vacant there for too long because there is no capacity there of electricity. The department then took an initiative and made provision for the construction of a substation there, and we are at the completion stage now, and that is going to assist us in electrifying all those vacant units there, so that we allocate them to the rightful beneficiaries, because people were identified long time ago and they were given happy letters as beneficiaries, but they were not allocated into those houses. So once we have completed the construction of a substation, then we are going to allocate those houses. And with the future development there, it will be easier, because we will have capacity of electricity in the area. There is a Southern Farm, a project that we are going to launch, and the department is working on that, and it's one of our mega projects that is also going to assist us in addressing the issue of housing backlog. But of course, the community also has a role to play here, because we don't have sufficient land in the city of Johannesburg, and we've got problems with invasions, and we really need our communities to work with us to curb the scourge of land invasion in the city. Of course, we rely more on the law enforcement agents, but the reality is that also our community they have a role to play in that, so that we are able to protect the leaky parcels of land that we have for the future development of houses in Johannesburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mabaso, for the detailed ideas and plans for forthcoming year. Now, let's talk about the efficiency of the city and the improvements that are going to be made there. And we're going to hear from Councillor Nott as well as Councillor Sudabi. They will be sharing the presentation, telling us about the finances as well as provision of corporate services. But let's take a look at the video first.
As a professional and a resident of Joburg, I know how frustrating it is when you want to get things done through the city. Reporting power outages, potholes, water bursts, etc., or just getting basic information is split between different departments, different entities, and it means that in essence there are way too many hotlines, emails, and other functionalities to report issues on, if they're even working. Standing in queues or spending hours on the phone cannot continue, particularly because we're in the 21st century. Joburg should be a well-run city that delivers quality services to its customers and be able to quickly and effectively communicate so that all customers can spend more time on the things that really matter in their lives.
Joburg must be an innovative, smart city that uses technology to make our customers' lives easier. Our commitment is that at the end of this first 5-year term, that you will be able to access the city in one place without standing in a queue. But if you do still need to speak to someone, or you need to deliver something in person, you will have to wait no longer than 10 minutes. And you will then speak to someone who is honest and professional and will deliver the best customer service.
Thanks, Tim, Executive Mayor. I think, for me, I got into politics because everything in the city got very difficult. processes got slower, we started going backwards, and it became where we were moving backwards, but the rest of the world was moving forward. And I think it's really important that our residents, who are essentially our customers and who we serve, are serviced in a way that makes them feel happy that we have their best interests at heart. So part of the process, and I probably, along with my colleague MMC Sotheby, we don't have the most exciting portfolios because we're not delivering services directly, but it's probably just as equally important, because we sit in the background looking at how efficient the service is within the city, how the core departments and entities are integrated and how they communicate with one another. And from what we've heard from all of our MMCs is that while they work in different departments, they have to rely on each other to get things done. And what we've seen in the past is a city that reacts to services in a silo mentality. And we cannot develop policies without developing the correct infrastructure plans to go with them, and that's something that we've seen happen. So what we're looking at in the first couple of months up until the end of June at really getting started is an integrated system that our residents can use, where they can log complaints and issues, and they don't have to be sent from pillar to post. At the moment, we've got entities and departments that are operating different call centers run by different service providers. We have, I myself have 7 apps on my phone. If I want to log an issue, I've got to find which one I need to go to. It's not easy, it's not fun. And when you're trying to log a frustrating issue with your city, the last thing you want to do is sit on the phone for 40 minutes or get an app only to be turned to another provider and told, no, you're logging it in the wrong place. And what we're hoping to do is reduce that inefficiency. A smart city starts with how quickly and efficiently you service your customers. Another part of what we're doing from a corporate and shared services perspective is to revise our policies. We have outdated policies, some of them over a decade, they haven't even been looked at. We're looking at, working from home with the new normal that we're now facing, getting back to business, considering that we're at level 1. A lot of the cities, entities and departments when we came in, we're not back to what they should be under the COVID regulations. So you're looking at reduced staff, and essentially that means your services aren't getting delivered. So succession plans within departments, looking at keeping key personnel, and I know the Executive Mayor has asked us to look particularly at the retirement age. We're losing a lot of skilled people that we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to force people to retire when they're capable of working, and we should be looking at a progressive strategy that enables us to recruit people. Our planning department doesn't have enough planners. City Power and JRA don't have enough skilled technicians and engineers. And we need to have a strategy that addresses the recruitment of those particular personnel and not bloating our structures so that we're actually inefficient in the long run. So I think that's from our perspective. We need happy employees, but we also need happy customers. And at the end of the day, we need to stop the victimization of employees within the city, but we also need to stop corruption where it sits. And that needs to be a balanced approach from both our sides. And I think my colleague MMC Sotheby will take you through the rest of this particular process.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Executive Mayor, for the opportunity. As the MMC for Finance, I have ICT, Internet Communication and Technology, and other departments like revenue and supply chain and budgeting and so on to look after. As we've heard, a lot of our colleagues are looking for internet solutions and technological innovation, and as MMC Not has said, she has 7 apps on her phone. Well, that equates to 7 instances of data. And so part of our strategy is going to be to have 1 instance of all the data so that every app that we have that will end up looking and feeling like it comes from the City of Johannesburg will access the same data, and that will make the billing queries easy to resolve, and your billing will be correct because that will come from 1 set of data. But if you do have to talk to the city, we're going to upgrade the equipment in the walk-in centers so that your customer experience when you walk into the walk-in center will be pleasant. And then also on the call centers, we're going to have a look at that and make sure that you don't have to spend ages and ages on the phone waiting for somebody to answer the phone for you. We go into Johannesburg. And we know that the cynicism that our residents feel when the city goes out to tender. And so we're going to create a system whereby the tender process is going to be honest, it's going to be open, and it's going to be transparent. And then we're going to award our contracts to only credible suppliers, and we're going to make sure that every cent that the city spends, we're going to get value for money. Because all of the wish list that all these MMCs today have mentioned need funding. And if we look after the money that we do have and we spend it wisely, then we will have enough funds to deliver to our customers and to our residents and to the businesses the quality services that you so deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MMCs North and MMC Sudabi. But as we come to the end of this broadcast, Mayor, I'm not sure, the Executive Mayor, if you'd like.
We're going to do together with our residents. I also want to manage expectations. Elections happened in the middle of the financial year. We've inherited business plans, we've inherited a budget. Yes, we're going into the adjustment budget period, which we will start with in February next year, and in February. However, I want our residents to also be aware of the legal constraints that we have. We are not allowed to adjust more than 10% of the existing plans and budgets. We've already started the process of engaging the various departments and entities to look at where there is non-performance or where budgets are not moving. And that is where we will be coming in and starting to move with our new plans, but certainly from July the 1st onwards, we will be implementing our own strategy as the Joburg multi-party government, and we can promise our residents that by then, they will already feel the difference of having a government that truly cares for them. Thank you very much.
Well, we've heard for ourselves, and thank you, Executive Mayor Palat and the MMCs, for the plans and priorities outlining the golden start for the city of Joburg. So we end this part of the broadcast. We'll pause for a few moments, and thereafter we proceed with the media interaction. Thank you. the golden start, as we heard. But I know for sure, my colleagues in the media, you do have specific questions that you would like to get answers to. What we're going to do, I will take 3 questions at a time, and then move it that way and direct the questions to the appropriate MMC. And let me also ask that we not repeat some of the presentations that were given here. If there's a specific question, let's just go direct to the question and not necessarily give a preamble to the question. It's for purposes of time, nothing more than that. Thank you very much. Who'd like to go first? No one. Okay, thanks. That's it for the day. I'm sure you want to hit the ground running, MMCs. If that's the case, then I'm going to take the online questions, and then we go for it as a matter of course. The first question is the timelines for the plan approvals. This is from a resident who's been following the proceedings online. And the second question is, how does the city of Joburg deal with land invasions without there being criticisms leveled at you? How are you going to stop them, the land invasions? So I think the executive mayor, if you can take the first question, and the second question can go to Ntate Tembe. Thank you.
I'm not sure if we're talking about business plans or if we're talking about building plans. Building plans. Okay, I'm going to ask MMC Etches and Joku to deal with the building plans issue.
If they can just repeat the question, please.
It's about the turnaround times, the timelines.
Okay.
You mentioned something about the turnaround time, but how long is it going to take to get to that point?
Okay. At the moment, we on a pilot, so it's going from now that it's 30 days, it's between now and June. By the end of June, it will be 5 days. 5 days from application to approval.
Thank you. And the invasions?
Yes, the issue of land invasion is a very tricky one because it happens at a different place at the same time. But what we're going to do now, we have established a unit that deals specifically with land invasion. Ourselves and SAPS were going to respond immediately should there be any land invasion. What we had now, we're going to deal with it, each and every one having specific time that we're going to deal with it.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Councillor Mabaso, I'm not sure if you want to comment, but Mayor, you want to have a go? No? Okay.
I'd really like to comment on that because I think the question was, how do we do it without looking bad?
Yes.
And for too long, we've sugar-coated criminality in our setting. We are afraid to call a crime, and when we do, we get accused of swearing at people. We're going to be educating our residents. They need to understand the legal framework of the city within which they find themselves. And we've spoken about group communications becoming a front runner in this because we need to run awareness, education, campaigns through various platforms. And we will be setting up our own broadcast studios. The city is one of our initial investments into our interface with our residents. Once you know that something is a crime, then you are empowered to make the right decision. But there are crimes that are indicative of gaps, service delivery gaps, and land invasions are only sometimes indicative of gaps in housing provision. And MMC Mabaso spoke about how we're going to look at closing that gap. There are resource constraints. We will be pulling on partnerships to help us close the gap, and we'll be looking at different modalities for closing the gap. But there's also land invasions that are just purely criminal, where people do shack farming to take care of their own business interests, and those will be dealt with harshly. In fact, once we've educated our residents on what to do when they need housing, we expect them to do the right thing. So we're not going to be apologetic about enforcing the law once we have done the necessary education and awareness.
Executive Mayor. Now, any plans, this is a question that we received online. The question is, plans or priorities regarding tenders for local businesses, MMC Mbundu? I think you should take that one. And the second question is, any plans for displaced persons?
Please, can you repeat the question?
The first question for you is, are there priorities that are going to be set aside, I would like to believe, tenders-wise for local businesses. How are local businesses going to be accommodated?
Yes, so there is a standard set aside, I think it's about 30% that comes from National Treasury. The way we are looking at regulating that is in any of the large contracts, the city withholds that and then distributes it depending on where it is taking place. Because right now, you may never know where the tender is going to be awarded. But when that transaction takes place, we want to make sure that we oversee that process, just to ensure that there's governance that is applied to it. I think this is subject to abuse oftentimes. So it's important that we work with the business forums, which is what typically happens, and particularly within the townships, to ensure that we've got an alignment and get them on board, that the city becomes the custodian of the set-aside, and I think it's about 30%, to ensure that the beneficiation happens with integrity, where it's supposed to land.
Thank you very much. And the question of the displaced persons, I think it's homeless people.
Thank you,
that
Tim.
you, Councillor DeLange?
Yes,
Take that.
that's
Thank you.
part of social development. Currently, the team at social development, there's about 80 different hotspots throughout the city of Johannesburg where you would find displaced or homeless people. Now, those could be locals, or those could be immigrants, or those could also be illegal immigrants that's in the city of Joburg. You find them a lot in the trolleys that you see on the roads when they pick the bins at source. You see a lot of those individuals. And the problem currently that social development is experiencing is that they move around. So if they try to monitor them, we also have programs in social development to pull those people in if it is for substance abuse, which is a major problem, or then to get them into programs. The illegal immigrants is a different story. We must link with Home Affairs to find out how did they get here, to try to document them and to see what's Home Affairs, but that is a provincial function, is going to do with those specific individuals. But we currently have programs that we can get those individuals in on the substance abuse side, and also then to try and train and educate them and to get them into the system in government through our opportunity centers, MMC Mbundu, and to see if we can't give them some kind of training and employment. Currently, we're focusing, as I mentioned before, it's an unfunded mandate. We're focusing on the rehabilitation centers first within our regions. Then with province and with private sector, we can maybe at a later stage look into homeless shelters. I know there's quite a few feeding systems through NGOs within the city. So it is a work in progress, but we definitely are growing and growing in strides if it comes to displaced and homeless people within the city of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor, the Executive Mayor, earlier I think the question was about the timelines overall for some of the things that we've had here, that from your point of view, when should we expect most of the stuff that we were told about to be delivered?
So the city's group strategy, planning, research, and coordination unit, which is the engine of planning in the city, has helped us to conceptualize what it is that we want to do. We're in the middle of the financial year. This financial year ends at the end of June. That's why you hear us talk about 100 days, 200 days, because that's where we are. We're looking at how are we going to finish this financial year where we've inherited plans and budgets. And as I've already explained, in terms of the law, in the adjustment budget cycle, we can only adjust 10%, no more than 10% of the plans and the budgets that are already in place, and that process is already underway. We've identified low-hanging fruits, we've identified quick wins, and those are some of what the MMCs have been talking about. A lot of them mentioned timelines. The timelines differ depending on what the project or the program is, but there is a definite program of action, and what we'll do is we'll share it on our platforms through group communications so that residents can have sight of it and be able to hold us to account. So that's the first step, is the adjustment budget, which will take us to the end of the financial year, which is end of June. As soon as we've passed that, we will start planning for the next financial year, which starts on the 1st of July, and then we'll have a full year to really exert ourselves as the new administration and demonstrate what we believe Johannesburg can be.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any other questions in the room? Because if there aren't any, we don't have to hang around and insist that there's something to talk about. We can call it a day. Raish, let's take your question, and probably it's the only question, it looks like it, and then we'll close it. Go ahead, sir. Dadeish Mkabe.
Thanks very much, Tim. I really would like to congratulate the new team. Just like a new year, we all really have dreams. And I think without dreams, we will not be able to achieve anything. I would like to ask a question as to what is the major risk we have which you need to be talking about? And the risk is not only to the elected officials, it's really a risk facing all stakeholders. Tackle it. I have my own thinking. Maybe we need to be aligned. Maybe we need to be able to set aside some of the difficulties. But the question still remains, is there a major risk which should not catch us napping, but we need to anticipate it?
Probably the mayor, you should respond to that. But before you do, can I ask, Raish, you know, what you have in mind when you say risk? You probably have identified something, or so that we can think along those lines, that what do you mean by risk? Thank you.
Sorry for not standing. What I'm thinking, for instance, is if, say, you have a building which is hijacked, we find that there are laws which will prescribe what needs to be done. And many a times you find the city taking a corrective measure, but they will be countered using the law. How do we deal with such risks? And I'm making that an example. And
Thank you.
If they have no answers, I'm just raising a risk.
Maybe.
Sorry. Councillor Mbundu. Who's going first?
I'd like to give Councillor Mbundu an opportunity to respond, and then I will conclude.
Okay.
The way I read the question is, what is the risk that faces all of us? What is the risk that faces the city, that ultimately faces the country? And for me, it's kind of difficult to decide between the two. Number one is unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. The number of young people, particularly what they call the NEETs, that not in education and employment and training, that are loitering around, subjected to nyaope, subjected to practices that are not constructive. I think that's number one. Number two, it's the inherent culture of corruption, particularly in the public sector. It is a disease. We always say that our government has inherited a face of corruption, ineptitude, and maladministration that eats away at the core values of our society, that eats away at the core values of Ubuntu. And we eradicate unemployment, we eradicate corruption, we are well on our way to becoming a prosperous country and a nation. And that is a collective effort. It is not the responsibility of the officials on the one side. It's a responsibility of the citizens who see this thing happen and who do not report it. We grew up in a culture where when you're a whistleblower, you're called impimpi. And a whistleblower does not enjoy a level of respect in society because you are a sellout. But that was in the apartheid days. Okay, we're not there. We're 30 years into this democracy. We really have to change the culture and protect whistleblowers and encourage whistleblowing if we are ever going to turn the tide in the country. If we are ever going to turn the tide for the nation, for the country as a whole, is to really adopt an all-inclusive culture of integrity, of appreciation of the hard-earned money that is spent by taxpayers and ratepayers to get the services going. So my view is, I think, potentially competing between those two elements, and really takes a collective effort. It's a change in how we live and how we view ourselves as a people.
Thanks, the Executive Mayor.
Thank you, MMC Mpundu, very true. We have identified many risks across the different functional areas. I think one of the big ones I'm personally concerned about is COVID-19 and how it's impacted on productivity in the city. We've seen a lot of deterioration and decay in the city in the last 2 years. But what we picked up is that, yes, we were caught unprepared as an institution, but that we were not quick to put in systems to adapt to the current times and what it means. For instance, we've had stoppages of work, you know, and whereas there are technologies to continue working. I always challenge the city manager saying, you know, our healthcare workers, our frontline workers are in the hospitals, they're working, they're continuing to work during the pandemic, and we need to start to look at ways for our employees to function in a safer way in the current dispensation. But even those who are working from home need to be performance managed. It's not a holiday. So there are many systems that we need to put in place to show that we are aware of where we are and that we're adaptable as a city. So that's one. The second one, I think what you're referring to is the external environment and how it affects us internally. And a good example of that is illegal immigration. We are not Home Affairs. As the city of Johannesburg, we don't have the powers that are vested upon Home Affairs. However, we are probably the one city in the country that's most affected by you know, undocumented migration. And so we will have to strengthen intergovernmental relations. We don't have a choice as Johannesburg. We're that important to South Africa. We contribute largely to the GDP. We are the economic engine of the country. So we're going to have to work with our provincial counterparts as well as our national counterparts to make sure that we get the city right. And in terms of the legal framework, often we pick up gaps in legislation or things that hinder our delivery of services, but often we don't respond adequately. We see it and we use it as an excuse as opposed to challenging the system. We've got representation, all the parties here, most of them are represented in our provincial governments and even in our national governments. And we have a direct line to the presidency through the Presidential Coordinating Committee, which we are a part of as a metro. And so we need to start making use of those mechanisms to start challenging the system and demanding that the system speaks to us in a manner that enables us to deliver services to our residents. We are at the coalface of service delivery, and that needs to be taken seriously.
Thank you very much, the Executive Mayor of the City of Joburg, Mayor Paul Palazza, and the MMCs. Much appreciated. Thanks very much for your presentations as well as your question. Braish. So that is the golden start. This is what we should expect as residents going forward. And we've also been reminded that the adjustments that can be made in the first 6 months will be within a range of 10%. But from July, Mayor, from July, right, 2022, we'll be watching everything with a much more hawkish eye than is the case at the moment. So there's a bit of room to make sure that you hit July, with everything in place. Now, for any further queries regarding the presentations here, please get in touch with Uleboheng Molatwa at 084-371-3243. I'm talking to my media colleagues in particular. Please, if you want to follow up on some of the presentations, the number 084-371-3243. I'd like to thank you, members of the press who are here, the guests who attended this, and those who followed the earlier broadcast on the social media platforms. And thank you, the MMCs, for making time to be with the residents this morning. And the Executive Mayor, good luck to you and your team and the officials. Much appreciated. Have a great day. Thank you.